If you ever had that like one song or one artist or one album that just like reminds you of something, it can be a time in your life in the past, it can be something you're struggling with in the present, it can even be somewhere that you want to be in the future. You listen to it, you close your eyes, you can smell it, you can taste it. It's like you're literally right there. It's like your own little personal cinema within the art or within the song or within the album or whatever it might be. I get so lost in those feelings. And obviously, not everybody connects to music in the same way that I do. But if you are one of those people, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I'm obsessed with storytelling within music and songwriting. To me, there's no better feeling when an artist truly makes you feel like to them when they wrote that song, it feels like it was more, it meant more to them than just like a collection of scientific chords put together for some specific reason. Do you know what I mean? And don't get me wrong, I understand music theory, I've studied music theory, but I think there are I do believe that there are fundamentals and rules that are there to be respected, but for lack of a better phrase, I don't think that that paints the whole picture. It's not like it's a magic trick in the same way that Darren Brown or David Blaine can't perform miracles, shoot lightning from their hands, or read people's minds. But the very best storytellers and songwriters make you feel like they almost could. Even as a kid, I feel like I've been fascinated with the idea that artists, songwriters, musicians could craft stories, sometimes real ones, sometimes completely made up, beautiful fantasy worlds, sometimes somewhere in between. It had this kind of poetic artistry to it, you know, and it's all kind of intertwined. I didn't always get it. I have memories of going to see kind of, I have memories of going to see my granddad and him sitting down and just spending all of his free time watching these kind of old tapes and reruns of icons from back in his day. And just him being completely enthralled, almost like he was kind of under the guise of a magic wand or a snake charmer or something. He was like, watching these performers for hours and hours, almost like he was waiting on the next move, like some sort of WWE superstar. And I didn't really get it, to be honest. I liked music, and I could appreciate and dance along to it, but I never saw myself as a storyteller, a songwriter, a musician, or an artist, or anything of that caliber. To be honest, I just saw myself as another kid from the foster care system, from a broken home, with a sad story on a dead end road. Boy, little did I know everything was about to change. For context, I was a 14-year-old kid with the weight of the world on my shoulders. I'd endured years of horrific abuse, trauma, and I just felt completely alone, disconnected, and I just felt like I had no purpose. And I enjoyed a lot of music, but I never felt like it spoke to me. I never felt like it necessarily. It was always talking about somebody else, a different time, a different place. It never felt like it was for me. And that all changed the day that I heard The Prayer by Kid Cudi. The day I heard that song, everything changed. It was like, man, how to even describe it? The second that the kind of slowed down, skewed and chopped kind of indie band of Horses came in, there's this beautiful song they have called The Funeral that Kid Cudi sampled in that song. And it just felt like, man, I didn't even know imagine what it felt like to feel relief or to feel seen and heard. And it just felt like exactly what I needed. It felt like all of a sudden, in this very, very dark place, there was a glimmer of light, and there was somebody outstretching the hand, reaching out to me and telling me it was going to be okay, because I was hearing somebody else struggle. I was hearing somebody else feeling pain. It wasn't just about being in the club, popping bottles, going crazy. It was somebody who was in that situation, but instead of choosing to rap about the high life, the fame, the glitz and the glamour, it was somebody who seemingly had it all, but was talking about how depressed they were, how much they were struggling with substances, how much they were struggling with abandonment, family issues, and just how much they were struggling. And that spoke to me so, so much. And not only, it wasn't just like some self-reflected diary of struggle. It felt like Kid Cudi was actually turning that hurt and that struggle into like a message for other people. He kind of made the song as a little, not just an own personal little diary of struggle. He actually turned it into a little bit of the prayer. He turned it into a prayer, almost like a prayer hymn, into like an accessible song that is his own personal struggle, but almost like to reach other people that were feeling that way, because he knew other people must be struggling out there because he was struggling, and actually was brave and vulnerable enough to put it out there in a way that would offer like a bit of a blueprint, or really a gesture to people out there that were feeling maybe a similar way or dealing with other struggles, to tell them that they weren't alone and it was okay to feel that way. After after I heard that first song, I started delving into Cudi's whole catalogue. I heard songs like All Alone, that New soundtrack to my life. I just started listening to his whole catalogue and looking for more of this feeling, more of this not feeling so alone, this inoculation to suffering, really, my own personal inoculation to suffering. And it really started me on this whole path and this whole fascination with songwriting and how, storytelling can be crafted into songs to have such an emotive and a powerful feeling within people. And I found that I started to use that, and I started to, explore different avenues. I started to look into different artists. I started to listen to people like Lupe Fiasco, Common. I started to listen to different people like Biz Markie, older artists that I hadn't remembered before. Even like the eldest artists like Nina Simone, Stevie Wonder. It just got me on this whole track of like following people's stories and seeing how people's identities and stories were crafted within the songs. It really just took me to a whole different place and started me on this track where, hang on a second, how much character do people put into songs, and then how do they choose to, how do they choose to express those characters, and what elements of the character, what elements of the world around them do they choose to put into it, and what do they have to say? And then I began to look at it and began to study it. And if you think about it, people have been sharing stories for thousands of years. Even like, I don't know, when people were drawing, pictures on caves, or, discovering fire for the first time or whatever, I'm sure that people were singing and, finding ways to share art amongst each other to kind of depict how they were feeling, to share stories from generation to generation with knowledge. Even through the most brightest and darkest times in our human history, people have, always connected through music, whether it be the, presidents, kings, queens that have been, sworn in to music, whether it's been slaves in America that have been writing songs and singing songs together through the worst periods in human history, have been singing songs together about lost family members, about survival, about freedom. There's just this really, music has the power to contain almost the very essence of what it is to be a person. Do you know what I mean? The very essence of what it is for, the very essence of the human spirit sometimes can be contained within music. And I feel like, similar to books, it can have, the potential to contain ideas, culture, wisdom, generational little footnotes. It can have all these different things, and from generation to generation and person to person, it changes. Obviously not all music contains that kind of stuff, and sometimes music is just something that you can listen to, but I'm just very, very fascinated and absolutely love how ideas, ideologies, feelings can all be expressed within stories, within songs. I've been honing these experiences. I've been like a sad little emo kid writing about my sad little foster life, writing raps and stories and trying to craft it all together with this newfound skill, really, and this newfound hunger for storytelling. And I basically did a cover of Eminem Mockingbird, and I wrote this, I wrote this rap about my life and some of the things I'd experienced and some of the hardships and some of the struggle. And I remember being really, really nervous, so nervous I had to wear sunglasses. I had a shirt and a tie on. It was, if you could believe it, jeans with a shirt and a tie and sunglasses. And I performed to the whole school. There was literally like, maybe like 200-300 people there, and all the dinner ladies were crying. It must have gone well. Like, I was really nervous, but I told my story. I said who I was, and literally, like, all the dinner ladies were crying. And safe to say, for the rest of that school year, I never had to buy a school dinner again. But I'd started. I'd told my story. I'd written it down, and I'd expressed it through music. And I'd seen in real time the ability that had to connect with an audience or connect to somebody else. So I took that feeling and I ran with it. I started writing lyrics, pages and pages and pages of lyrics, and started sending them out to my trusted eyes and ears in college, in school, whatever it might be, and saying, yo, can you read these lyrics and get back to me by lunchtime and tell me what you think? And then they come back and be like, oh, yo, that was nice. Or, oh, were you saying this? Were you saying that? And I'm like, oh my God, I'm taking in all this information, taking in all this data, and be like, interesting. So if I tell this story and if I do that, and interesting, diddle this perspective, and really just learning from it and honing it. And then I began taking that and extending that to a wider network of people. I began finding like-minded people, other songwriters, producers, storytellers. In particular, a friend of mine called Brendan, who was an amazing producer and songwriter, musician, all-round great guy. I think he was making songs that were like 30 quid at the time. He turned his living room into a makeshift music studio, and record a song with him. It was like 30 quid. It was crazy. And so we would go over there and share stories and, just have drinks and, and just be goofy, just hang out, connect with each other, I'd hear his story. He would hear my story. We'd just be like, random people would come through. You might see somebody come through and playing violin. You might see a bass player come and somebody play the cajon. And you're like, yo, it just felt like this like really live environment where people were just searching for, who they are and what they want to say. And it was just like a melting pot of storytelling and self-expression. I think that's the great thing about storytelling and music in general, because I think it can be quite versatile. One thing that can mean something to me will mean something infinitely different to you. Like, some people might just go to music is just a background noise that happens when they're in the gym. It's a constant, it's a beat, it's just something that happens that when they're pumping iron, it just keeps it going like that. Something might be, when you're reading, or maybe when you're working, or when you're going through an essay that you've got, or an assignment that's on a deadline. You just have a certain music that gets you in a zone to do something, and it's like a function, it has a purpose, but it's totally versatile. And I just find it so interesting. But when it comes to different facets of music, this is definitely the one side of the paradigm that music exists in, that I completely and utterly are just enamored by, and I feel like I've been studying my whole life. I know this video has been a little bit hippy dippy, and I feel like I've just low-key been kind of ranting on camera about my love for storytelling within songs. If you take anything away from this video, I really hope that you guys can connect with songs, or think about how music makes you feel. Think about how some of the stories that you hear within music have sort of remind you of certain places in your life, or take you to somewhere, or remind you of somebody. For you, if you can let me know in the comments below, what are those moments for you? Where do those songs take you? When did you get that lightning bolt moment when you kind of just fell in love with an artist or an album, or a story just hit you in a certain way? I'm really interested to see. There must be people out there that just haven't got that yet, or just, that's not really their thing, and that's totally cool. But I'm absolutely fascinated by it, and I'm hoping that there's other people out there that are too. So if you made it this far into the video, really appreciate it. Thank you so much for the love, and I hope to see you in the next one. And take care until then, players. Peace.